All right. We are now streaming live on YouTube. Welcome to Talk of Christ, Faith, Family, and Adventure. And I am your host, Steve Hunt, consultant for prosperity and adventure. And I'm going to... We are now streaming. Wow, and there we get that again. Welcome. The sound of the YouTube coming back to me, even while I'm trying to go live. All right, what are you seeing on the screen right now, Dave?
I see. Sorry, I'm doing something else. I'm trying to get rid of my graphic here, but I see something that says "Talk of Christ, Faith," something else. I can't see it. It's blocked.
I just wanted to make sure that it's displaying our little disclaimer here before we start. What we're going to do today is respond to Radical Orthodoxy, a manifesto. And so let me explain. Earlier this week, I saw a news article from the Salt Lake Tribune that I am going to show now. Oh, here we go. From the Salt Lake Tribune that says that there's a new manifesto circulating among Latter-day Saints, and it is, quote, radical. And it talks about, we'll get into it because I haven't read it yet at all. So this will be a true first reaction for Dave and myself as we read this manifesto. It is written by 3 Latter-day Saint bloggers that again, the manifesto has nothing to do, here says the article in the Tribune, has nothing to do with Marxism or multiple wives or anything like that. This is simply their declaration. It is Nathaniel Givens, a data scientist and entrepreneur in Virginia, who worked more than a year on the manifesto's wording with co-authors Jeffrey Thayne, who teaches at Brigham Young University, Idaho, where I used to teach, and J. Max Wilson, who runs the LDS-oriented blog 16 Small Stones. And so let's just jump in to what this manifesto says, and let's react. Dave is joining me, but others may pop in or out as well to the conversation. Here we go. This says, Latter-day Saint, Radical Orthodoxy, a manifesto. As disciples of Jesus Christ, we are called to hold fast to the revealed truths of the restored gospel in a polarized and contentious world. This polarization is driving members of the church to spiritually dangerous extremes, tempting some Latter-day Saints to reduce fidelity to knee-jerk traditionalism, and others to abandon fidelity for worldly philosophies. Help me understand that. Tempting to reduce their fidelity down to knee-jerk traditionalism, and others to abandon fidelity.
I mean, I think it's just saying that. I think it's just saying that it's becoming, the polarization is making it more common for people to rely on identity politics in their faith, and to rely on, as it says, knee-jerk knee-jerk whatever. I can't see the wording here, but to kind of automatically assume, oh, this is the party line, this is what I believe, without actually exploring your own personal belief system. I think that's what it's critiquing, or what it's charging anyway.
The very next paragraph explains what they're talking about in that sentence. So if you're curious.
I think we lost Stephen. You're back. You're on mute.
Still on mute.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear anybody say that I was on mute. I didn't realize it. Yeah, it looks like we've been streaming live through all this greatness. Yeah, I think we had some brownouts here and my internet went down and everything. So I'm back. Dave, I missed whatever you may have said. I dropped out right in the middle, but I think I've understood this sentence here. Yeah, that either we have people who are just fully to traditional doctrines and unwilling to budge with the new, with just life as it applies, and then other people who are abandoning completely their faith in the doctrines and just going with worldly philosophies. Is that what you understood?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Did you want to say more? Go ahead.
No, that's it. Let's keep going.
All right. On the one hand, those who replace divine instruction with secular measures of progress risk relinquishing eternal truths for misguided worldly ideas. Okay. This can lead them to declare that the church is behind the times on moral and social issues. On the other hand, those who focus solely on conserving what we have already received are prone to conflate human tradition with eternal truth. This can lead them to condemn any form of question asking, faithful exploration, or subsequent revelation. I like that paragraph. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with it. I think that increased polarization is driving people, not just members of the church or our church or any church, but driving all kinds of people to the extremes of their own philosophical camps. And if your camp that you're talking about is faith, the polarization politically, the political polarization has kind of wormed its way into all aspects of thought, so that now identity politics requires that even in matters of faith, you are either an extreme traditionalist or extremely progressive, right? Conservatives and liberals, same thing. And you see it in church just like you see it in every other aspect of life. And I think that these two paragraphs so far have just set up that these two extremes are both dangerous.
Okay. Yeah. Like Odysseus, we're going to have our manifesto jump to ancient storytelling. Like Odysseus, sailing between, I don't even know how to say these cities, these islands, Scylla and Charybdis. Charybdis. The path of discipleship takes us through a narrow course between two spiritual monsters, unbridled progressivism and obstinate fundamentalism. Navigating these perilous waters requires radical orthodoxy. Radical orthodoxy is an approach to the restored gospel that seeks to harmonize fidelity with exploration and cultural improvement. So they're laying out where they're going. Any thoughts on this?
I mean, kind of. It seems like they couldn't decide which of these first three paragraphs should be their introduction paragraph, so they used all three of them.
Yeah.
It's just kind of repeating the same thing it said so far. But I'm interested in what they're going to tell us radical orthodoxy is, because it sounds like an oxymoron. But let's keep going.
Radical orthodoxy is orthodox because it promotes fierce fidelity to revealed truth. Okay, good. If we can identify what revealed truth is, I would agree absolutely we want to be fiercely faithful to it, right?
Sure.
The institutional, but now also to fierce fidelity to revealed truth, the institutional church and the Lord's authorized representatives, and therefore rejects the excesses of progressivism. This includes meticulously heeding and unabashedly embracing the counsel and teachings of prophets and apostles regarding chastity and morality, the divinity of Christ, and the foundational claims of the restoration, even when doing so runs contrary to popular worldly views. Those who embrace radical orthodoxy strive to be valiant in their witness of restored truth. You want to respond to that first, David?
Well, I think that they're using a lot of concrete language here in this paragraph, but it's masking a lot of ambiguity, actually, particularly in their list here of what three things they are fiercely loyal to, right? The revealed truth, the institutional church, and the Lord's authorized representatives are three very different categories, and they lump them all together. And a lot of people do. Typically, the more fundamentalist sect of faith lumps those all together. But the institutional church, what does that include? How far does that go? Is doing what your teacher's quorum advisor says part of the fidelity of the institutional church if you're a 14 or 15-year-old boy? Well, what about the Lord's authorized representatives? Well, how far does that go? Is that just the brethren? Is that local leadership? And if you can say, sure, we'll be loyal to local leadership, but again, how far are we talking about? What does fierce fidelity mean to local leadership? Or who is an authorized representative? So I'm assuming that these will be treated later, but they've kind of lumped them all together, which might be a bit tricky.
Yeah, well, and I already commented as we went through it on the ambiguity of revealed truth. Just what exactly is that, right? And so, yeah, I agree with all the above. And as you said, other examples of institutional church that, is family home evening part of the institutionalized church? Is Come Follow Me part of the institutionalized church now? And yeah, how are we? What is fierce fidelity to those things? That's good. So anything else here? Yes, I liked the second half much better. That first part, as we mentioned, seems ambiguous to us. This includes, unabashedly embracing the counsel and teachings of prophets and apostles. And then regarding chastity, morality, divinity of Christ, foundational claims of the restoration.
The other thing is, people might argue with what I'm about to say here, but revealed truth, the institutional church, and the Lord's authorized representatives they change over time, and their positions change over time. And so fierce fidelity to those positions, it's not a simple concept. Anyway, let's keep going.
Even the counsel and teachings of the prophets regarding chastity and morality can change or can soften or can strengthen or whatever. And so, yeah, it's hard to know what we're to be fiercely loyal to here. Radical orthodoxy is radical because it promotes bold exploration beyond what is familiar, and therefore rejects the obstinateness of fundamentalism. Okay, defining what they are. It is willing to revisit many facets of our received paradigm in order to apply the revealed doctrines and principles of the gospel to the unique challenges of today. That includes, under the tutelage of modern prophets, a revolutionary reconsideration of traditions, paradigms, and applications of the gospel inherited from prior generations. And I think it's very important to consider, when you're deciding what you believe, when you're choosing what you believe, do you believe, are your beliefs coming to you from traditions and just paradigms and views and whatever, or are they coming from actual revealed truth, which is hard to identify sometime? And so, any thoughts on this paragraph? They're just saying what radical orthodoxy is. They're still defining.
Really. I mean, obviously, you probably find as you're reading this document that you identify more with the paragraph on orthodoxy or more with the paragraph on radical, right? And that's probably because you, like me, like everybody else, leans to one or the other of these two extremes. So, I have fewer problems with this radical paragraph because I feel like it jibes more with how I approach my own faith. But we'll see how they. So far, I'm not sure that they've really resolved the tension that they've identified. But we're only halfway through, so that's fair.
Well, and they've clarified, or they've tried to point out that they're trying to chart this middle ground course as between the radical and the orthodoxy. I've read some viewpoints on this manifesto in that Tribune article that I started this video with. There are people who have commented on the manifesto around the country who kind of say this is kind of maybe we'll see if this is more than just a nothing burger, because they've just kind of described the radical and the orthodoxy, and they've said we should be somewhere in the middle, and then they didn't. Anyway, we'll see what more they want to add to that. All right, radical orthodoxy cultivates humility and a recognition that far less is certain about many doctrinal matters than we often presume. I really like that. I absolutely believe that. Those who embrace radical orthodoxy are not afraid to ask questions, and they eschew dogmatism with regards to lesser controversies, even while they boldly defend faith, diligence, and conviction on matters of covenant living, revelation, doctrine, and authority. It's interesting what they've picked here to be the things they want to stand by. You know, I'm not sure with all their wordsmithing why they decided that obviously we don't need to die on a mountain of lesser controversies, whatever those are. It's ambiguous, it's not stated, while we should fight to the death and boldly defend diligence. What diligence in what? In daily scripture study and family home evening, and I don't know. Conviction, okay, on matters of covenant living, revelation, doctrine, and authority. Again, yeah, like you and I have said, there's a lot of ambiguity in what all of these things entail. So as we revisit the lines between tradition and revelation, we are careful not to dishonor the prophets of the past, undermine the projects and programs of the church, or ignore the moral witness and counsel of living prophets and apostles. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, it all sounds pretty good. It sounds aspirational. This is how I try to live my own faith, right? But I don't know that it's giving anybody a roadmap who's not already doing this.
Yeah.
I mean,
the idea is, go ahead.
No, I'm done. It's like I said, it's an aspirational kind of mission statement. Like, hey, I have decided that I'm rejecting the extremes of fundamentalism and of ultra progressivism in my faith. I have decided that there's room for humility in interpreting doctrine, but there's also room for, holding fast to certain, core, fundamental, cornerstone aspects of faith, including affirming authority and things like that. I mean, that's good. I try to do all of that, and it is a difficult balancing act. Sometimes the exercise of writing something down can be helpful in, putting a finer point on your thinking. Maybe that's all they were doing here, rather than trying to give some kind of recipe for people to follow.
Very good. Yeah, it's this idea that we want to be okay with questioning things. We want to be okay with trying to figure out how our beliefs and the doctrines, the revealed doctrines, apply to modern issues, especially when we recognize that not all doctrines, in fact, very few doctrines are straightforward and clear. And so we want to be open to questioning and applying, and at the same time, we want to say that while we're doing that, we are taking a faithful position, as faithful as we can, to the words of prophets and apostles, the revelation found in scripture and so forth. That's what I'm getting from this, right? And I, like you, yeah, I agree with that. I try to live that way. So radical orthodoxy embraces the following virtues. Truth. We love and defend the truth. I love this. I love that it came first, actually. This is one of my favorite things. We reject philosophies that suggest that there is no truth. We recognize, however, that without divine assistance, truth is very difficult to discern. I like that. You want to say anything on that?
I mean, it's, again, it has this kind of ring of concreteness, but it's not concrete at all. It's very ambiguous. And to say we love and defend the truth is, it sounds good, it feels good, but it's kind of meaningless unless you talk about what the truth is. And they say, we think that there is truth, but you need divine assistance. Okay, fine, that's okay. But both sides are going to claim that paragraph for themselves.
Good. Humility. We recognize our own limitations, and we are willing to question our cultural and religious presumptions in light of both sound scholarship and ongoing revelation from God. Sound scholarship and ongoing revelation from God. Comment on that?
Well, I like that paragraph a little better, probably because it fits more with which way I tend to lean. But again, here, they give lip service to scholarship, but if ever there is a revelation which some people claim preempts scholarship or the latest science or something like that, where does that leave you? Do you I guess you have to determine for yourself whether there is a conflict in the first instance, and if so, what's the nature of the conflict, and how much scholarship can you accept while still accepting this ongoing revelation? In other words, they've given these two concepts in this paragraph as though they don't conflict. The fact is, they conflict quite often.
Yeah, and identifying which
So
one.
presumably they would go with the revelation.
Yeah, but
I'm
is
sorry,
the revelation? Yeah, no, yeah, and when they do conflict, going back to the first paragraph, which one then is truth? And if you go with revelation, yeah, is it the revelation meaning just the spoken word of the prophet, the spoken word of the
right.
first presidency, the Quorum of the 12, and that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. Integrity. We do not believe in compartmentalizing the gospel from our professional pursuits, politics, scholarship, social interactions, or hobbies.
Yeah, maybe. I think for the most part, that's right. This, I've actually been thinking about this recently. It's 4:00, so maybe we need to be done. But I've been thinking about this because I just watched Survivor, and I've never watched Survivor before. I was telling you about this recently, Stephen, but I just watched a season of Survivor, and I was thinking, man, I would be terrible at this game because I couldn't go onto the island and just bald-faced lie to people, gain their trust, and then stab them in the back. But then I kind of thought, well, that's the rules of this game, right? And it is a game. And when you play cards, that you have a bluffing aspect to it. I don't feel bad about bluffing because that's the rules of the game. Similarly, I suppose, even in a professional sense, there are things that are required by most of our professions that are not necessarily how we would act outside of our profession. So the question of, does your profession give you any kind of moral license? For example, in law, if somebody's cross-examining somebody, one of the things that they typically try to do is make that person tear down that person's credibility, right? And that's something that you wouldn't do in normal conversation. Normal morality doesn't permit you to just tear down people's credibility in front of other people and embarrass them. But in that profession, in that role, there are different moral rules, or at least they're justified by different moral goals. And there's a lot of writing and thinking about this role morality and whether it's connected to a third-party benefit to society, et cetera, and whether it's justified. But I'm going too far on this question of integrity. Generally, integrity is a great thing. But just reading that one sentence, sure, I think I can come up with something to argue against it. I'm not sure that in everybody's roles they can kind of afford the privilege of always I don't know. I mean, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. I want to say here,
exactly the same, acting the same in church as they do at work.
Well, sure. I mean, but look at the example of Survivor or playing, a card game that involves bluffing. Could Jesus play a card game that involves bluffing? Probably not, I guess, because he was a person with integrity, and so he's the same wherever he was. Well, what if your profession involves taking actions which otherwise normal morality wouldn't permit? Anyway, it's an interesting question, but again, it's 4:03. What's your plan here?
Yeah, no, the plan was to be done by now. So I guess I just want to, maybe we can come back and talk about some of these at another time, but let's summarize here. We've got fidelity, we've got seeking, which they say they're loyal to Jesus Christ and the restored church. So we have seeking, and curiosity is a virtue. They say revelation. We affirm the church is guided by continuing revelation and personal revelation. Faith, Christ has already won the essential victories, and we trust the Lord. Hope, we are deliberately optimistic about the church and its role. and charity. We love all God's children and have a soft-hearted temperament. Radical orthodoxy is not a faction nor a label intended to set forth boundaries for any particular group or organization. It is rather a rallying point, an invitation to embrace conviction and fidelity. It's also an invitation to reject fundamentalism and embrace the possibility of change, innovation, and progress in how we understand the gospel. It's an occasion to reinforce our loyalties to the resurrected Christ and to the church that bears his name, and to strive to be lower lights burning as an example to others who are also navigating the treacherous waters of modern intellectual discourse. Yeah, in summary, I feel, and you can summarize your thoughts from the whole thing, but this quick reaction, I feel like they've stated what I saw as what the restored gospel was about anyway, that sticking too close to traditions was what Joseph Smith constantly wanted to get away from, get the people away from the traditions of their old religions and their old Christianity, and get them into this mode of receiving revelation from God through prophets and apostles and through the Holy Ghost, and seeking for truth and staying fiercely loyal to Jesus Christ through revelation and revealed truth, and realizing that continually rolling forth. And I feel like that's what they're kind of saying. They're saying, let's stay close to God and revelation. Let's not get too stuck in old traditions, but let's realize that because we have revelation, things can change as we receive that revelation from God and as truth comes through science and other sources as well. I believe in that kind of stuff. So I thought that's what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was about. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're right. I think that it's an aspirate. It jives with a lot of how I feel I approach my faith. That's good. We've been critical of it mostly because that probably it's easier to be critical. Say, oh yeah, this is great. It's a little more fun to kind of tear at something. So to that extent, that probably wasn't fair of us, because I think it's just an aspirational document that is diplomatic to both of them in the middle, and that's great. That's fine. We should all do more of that, honestly. So I'm all for it. I don't know that it's some kind of manifesto that needs to, kind of be in the news. It just seems like one person's statement, or I guess in this case, three people's statement of how they approach their own faith in this time of polarization. And that's great. That's fine. So
perfect. Well, thanks for joining me for this. We're going to go have another conversation here.